Nobody ever notices the woman with the cheap badge until the ground starts to shake. That's how it began for Meredith Voss on a drab, foggy spring morning at Norfolk. One moment, just another face on the pier. The next, every pair of eyes was glued to her, hearts thumping the entire U.S. Navy holding its breath. I mean, you ever seen an Ohio-class nuclear submarine surface right in front of a civilian? Yeah, neither had they. She got out of this nondescript sedan, blending in about, as well as a coffee stain on a wedding dress-worn blazer, khaki pants, ponytail, the kind of woman who looked like she knew where every paperclip at the Pentagon ended up. But the badge clipped to her chest, faded as it was, made even the lifers uneasy. Meredith just walked, slow and steady, eyes sweeping the fog, like she was reading secrets in the air. The sailors couldn't help themselves snickers, sighed. Another pencil pusher grumbled into their morning coffee. At the checkpoint, Chief Warrant Officer there didn't even try to fake a smile. ID and authorization, he said, like he was swatting at a fly. She handed him her badge, Department of Energy Special Oversight Division, and he barely glanced at it, already bored. "We just had Pentagon folks here last month," he muttered, rolling his eyes for the benefit of a bored petty officer nearby. "Not an audit," Meredith replied, her voice flat and unbothered. "I need the movement schedule for the USS Colorado." Now, you mention a nuclear submarine to military folks, even offhand, and it's like you just turned on a spotlight. The whole dock stiffened, little waves of attention rolling down the pier. That petty officer young, cocky couldn't resist. "Lady, those boats don't surface for civilians. If you're that curious, why not wait by the water? Great view, I promise." He was hoping she'd get bored and leave. Instead, Meredith just nodded, shrugged, and walked right to the edge, standing there alone, back to the men, staring at the fog-shrouded water like she could see something beneath the surface nobody else could. That's when everything started going sideways. Inside the base's operations center, Commander Afalabi was halfway through his breakfast when the sonar lit up an unidentified submarine, moving at speed, coming in from a direction that made no sense. "Run it again," he barked. Same answer. No scheduled movements. No Allied vessels. The vessel wasn't responding to secure hails, and it was heading straight for Pier 12. Get security on that pier now. The operations center erupted into chaos, phones ringing, orders shouted, boots pounding down the corridor. Then someone said, "Commander, the vessel's surfacing." And everyone turned to the security feed. Meredith Voss, still alone, watching the water as if she'd known this was coming all along. And then, like a leviathan rising out of myth, the Ohio-class sub broke the surface right in front of her. No tugs, no ceremony, just raw power, an entire chunk of the ocean heaving up. The pier fell dead silent, everyone frozen. "Chief, there's coffee cup hitting the concrete and shattering." The conning tower emerged, deck glistening, and from the hatch, Captain Ryerson stepped into view, snapped a salute at Meredith sharp, deliberate, unquestioning. And suddenly, nobody was laughing anymore. Chief, their voice shook. "Ma'am, that's the Phantom Fleet." They don't answer to he trailed off, because Meredith had reached inside her jacket and pulled out a black card obsidian, flecked with platinum, a single red star burning in the middle. "I know who they report to, Chief," she said, barely above a whisper. "They report to me." All around them, guns lowered. Faces went pale. Afalabi, finally seeing the card, just nodded authorization Omega. Deepwell. Most of them had only ever heard rumors. Secret oversight, above the chain of command, the fail-safe, if everything else failed. Meredith turned to Ryerson. "Secure your vessel, Captain. Prepare for inspection. There's been a breach." The next 30 minutes were a blur. Senior officers filed into a makeshift briefing room, jaws clenched, eyes flicking between Meredith and the digital maps filling the screens. 3 weeks ago, she began, unauthorized command pathways were detected. Attempts to compromise nuclear communications, possibly from inside our own ranks. Russian ships near Alaska, satellite images of naval exercises, dots connecting that nobody wanted to see. "Are you saying the chain of command's been breached?" someone asked, voice cracking. I'm confirming it, Meredith replied, sliding a drive across the table. 3 admirals under surveillance. Today's surfacing was a test Captain Ryerson received orders to stand down. He ignored them, followed Omega Protocol. That's why you're all still here. The realization hit this wasn't about a single rogue officer. It was about the whole system, the invisible hand holding the keys to the kingdom. The Deepwell program, Meredith explained, was built after the Cold War almost went hot over false signals and hardware malfunctions. We're the check nobody ever talks about, she said, eyes glinting. We intervene only when the system itself is compromised. A long silence. How many of you are there? Afalabi finally whispered. Enough, Meredith answered. Enough to stop this before it's too late. For hours later, the base was locked down, communications cut to the bone, security thicker than fog. They'd already found the first traitor, a pale-faced lieutenant commander, cuffed and shaking, swearing it was all a misunderstanding, that he thought he was following NATO orders. And the admirals? Ryerson asked. 2 detained. 1 gone last seen boarding a jet to Helsinki. Meredith didn't even flinch. He won't get far. We have eyes everywhere. But the twist came when Director Harlow, Naval Intelligence, swept into the room, face tight. 4 other Deepwell operators activated in the last 12 hours. We have simultaneous breaches Kings Bay, Stratcom, even with the Joint Chiefs. This isn't just about subs. It's about paralyzing our entire nuclear response. Protocol broken. She was to brief him in person at Andrews Air Force Base. She turned to Chief there, who finally spoke from his heart. How do you live with this? Knowing more than anyone, but never being seen. Meredith just stared at the ocean. Some burdens are meant to be carried quietly. The heaviest never come with medals. By evening, she stood on the tarmac, briefcase in hand, flanked by Ryerson. The president waited beside Marine One. MS. Voss, I wish we'd met under better circumstances. So do I, sir. As the helicopter thundered over D.C., she explained Deepwell's origins created under Reagan and answered in near-apocalyptic close calls. Civilian oversight, but hidden, answerable only to a secret committee, Supreme Court, Congress, executive, all above politics as much as anything ever could be. The crisis unfolded faster than anyone could have dreamed. Simultaneous activation of every Deepwell operator. Across the world, hidden civilians flashed credentials that stunned generals, missilers, captains. Submarines surfaced in coordinated display just beneath the satellite's 90 seconds of silent, synchronized defiance, then slid back into the deep. One base held out Kitsap, Washington. Executive Officer Lawrence threatened to go public unless given immunity, holding evidence of an even deeper conspiracy. Senators, not just admirals, trying to seize control for themselves. You want the truth? You have my word, Commander, Meredith said. Deepwell exists to make sure even the highest aren't untouchable. Lawrence handed her the drive, whispering, I always thought I'd die for the chain of command. Today I broke it. Was I wrong? Sometimes protecting the system means knowing when it's broken, she replied. 2 days later, the dust began to settle. 3 senators vanished from their committees, pending secret inquiry. Admiral Schaefer in custody. The public never knew how close they'd come to disaster. Chief there found Meredith at the pier, watching the Colorado dock in the mist. After all this, you just disappear? He asked, voice low. That's the job, she said, tucking the black card away. We're not meant to be seen unless something's gone wrong. He shook his head in awe. How many more like you? She smiled faintly. That's the question that keeps everyone honest and keeps America safe. As Meredith walked back to her car, the sun set over Norfolk, badge hidden once more, power disappearing into the shadows. The ocean looked the same as it always had, cold, indifferent, eternal. But beneath the surface, everyone knew. The system had survived, this time because someone was watching the watchers.